Cannabis Regulations in North Macedonia. Co-founder of Imperial Green Ltd, North Macedonia. From North Macedonia, Dr. Vasko Dinev.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Vasko Dinev. Pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the organizers and thank you for the attendees. My presentation will be related to the medical cannabis regulations in the Republic of North Macedonia. But first of all, I would like to congratulate Thailand and welcome them to the medical cannabis family. I was very pleasantly surprised during one cannabis conference in Malta in November 2019, just a year ago from now, where the Thailand representative presented their plan, how they are perceiving and how they will regulate the medical cannabis industry and administration into Thailand. Outstanding presentation, very well presented, amazingly done. Just to move on without any further ado, some of the topics of the presentation will be why do we need regulations, introduction of the medical cannabis in North Macedonia, current status of the medical cannabis industry in North Macedonia, then the future legislative changes and amendments, and some business opportunities and local advantages in medical cannabis in Macedonia. Now, why do we need regulations? We have every one of us, almost everyone have heard abbreviations such as GACP, GMP, GLP, GCP, GDP, all kind of Gs and Ls and Ps. The idea of having these abbreviations, these practices, guidelines, and regulations is that before having that regulations, the medicine and let's say medical related drugs and treatments were presented to the patients and to the public to these medical, so-called medical shows or magical shows where all sorts of elixirs, tonics, oils, and whatnots were presented to the public, promising of all sorts of treatment and cure. Now, even though the public and the patients have been using such magical potions, these potions were giving quite a lot of side effects, deaths. There was no responsibilities on the manufacturer. And throughout the years, regulators have pushed legislative laws and regulations to introduce and to develop even further and further to develop guidelines to regulate such elixirs and such potions. There are more than few guidelines. There are more than few legislatives, but I'm just giving an outline of, let's say, the most important ones, which are the good clinical practices (GCP), and the reasons for these GCP regulations and legislations are that we have now increased ethical awareness, we have improved trial methods, we have better understanding of clinical trial concepts, which nowadays with this virus pandemic, where everyone is hearing and knowing to wanting to know even more information on how these clinical trials are organized. Then we have the safety aspects. We as human beings, we are taking drugs which they are having positive and negative side effects. So we would like to have throughout these good clinical practice, we would like to have a better view and understanding on the safety aspects of the introduced drugs. Then then throughout the GCP guidelines, we can find out and we can eliminate frauds and incidents during the clinical trials. And one of the most important things is, last but not least, is the mutual recognition of data, which means the clinical trials conducted and organized on global scales can be recognized and can be can be used globally rather than locally and regionally. Then the reasons for good manufacturing practice is that every pill, every elixir, every potion needs to be one and the same, to have the same quality measures. Then it needs to be properly tested. The personnel, the materials in the premises needs to be properly organized and properly described. Then we need to have a good distribution practice from one point to another point. And if there is a complaint or withdrawal, there need to be a good pipeline, safe and stable pipeline, which these complaints and improvements will be taken care of. Now, having in mind all the regulations which are related to clinical trials and good manufacturing practice, the legislative for medical cannabis in North Macedonia is incorporated into a law which is called Legislative for Control of Opioid Drugs and Psychotropic Substances. The same law covers 3 plants, let's put it like that: poppy, industrial hemp, and medical cannabis. From a timeline perspective, medical cannabis or hemp was presented on the Balkan Peninsula since early ages. There are records, there are data that industrial hemp was heavily used and cultivated by local farmers in the Balkan Peninsula, for using it for ropes, for some garments, or for some dietary food, supplementary food. Then in the 90s, the industrial hemp and medical cannabis was forbidden to be cultivated, used, or extracted in any sorts. And in 2016, the government in that period, they enforced a law which allowed to cultivate medical cannabis or cannabis for medical purposes. The representing law in 2016 was, let's say, as any law, as anything written on paper, was not covering everything. So there were quite a few omissions and quite a few not well-defined situations where they were taken care of by amendments in 2018. One of those amendments was import of seeds and clones. And currently in 2020, we are looking forward to receive a new updated legislation, which is already introduced into the North Macedonian Parliament, and it's under review. And hopefully, it will come into the light by end of this year. Regulators regulate everywhere where they have their power. So in Macedonia, the ultimate apex of the regulatory pyramid is the government, which is issuing the licenses for cultivation of medical cannabis. Then we have the Ministry of Health, which is, let's say, the department, the ministry who is responsible for reviewing the paperology and the bureaucracy related to the medical cannabis cultivation. In the Ministry of Health, there is a special commission of medical cannabis which inspects and initially approves the cultivation facilities. Then we have a drug agency, we have a Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, which are related to anything related to agricultural part of the cultivation of medical cannabis. We have the Ministry of Interior or the Police, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Justice, the Agency of Youth, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance. All these ministries, commissions, and inspections, they are forming interdisciplinary committees which are directly related to the medical cannabis industry in North Macedonia. There will be, according to the new law, there will be one agency which will be more or less one-stop shop from a regulatory perspective, which will be called Agency for Cannabis for Medical and Scientific Purposes of Republic of North Macedonia. All these changes, all these new legislations which are related to medical cannabis industry and medical cannabis consumption in the Republic of North Macedonia, they are brought to the public eye throughout a quite big transparent approach. They are very much organized open panel discussions by Ministry of Health. Then there are public debates on radio and television where certain politicians, professionals, experts related to medical cannabis are giving their personal professional views on medical cannabis, and all the changes which are related to medical cannabis, official changes, they are put on a public national register for regulations, which means every citizen which is interested in that industry or in what's happening in medical cannabis in Macedonia can easily find the new amendments and all these things. Now, aside of this inclusive approach, we have a bit of scrutiny on from society point of view. Some of the key opinion leaders, the medical key opinion leaders, some of them, they have lack of knowledge and they are a bit more hesitant of, let's say, being in favor of prescribing medical cannabis for medical indications. Then we have different political views. You know how the politicians are. If one is in favor, someone will be against. Then we have a bureaucracy, which I strongly believe that it will be minimized in certain point of views. And then we have different cannabis views inside the cannabis society as well. We have recreational, we have medical, we have NGOs who are pushing for legalization, we have NGOs who are pushing for recreational market and all these things. So it's good to discuss about cannabis. It's good to speak about cannabis. But the idea is all these visions need to be properly aligned and properly addressed. From patient perspective, the medical cannabis can be bought or can be taken only from pharmacies. The current law allows only medical cannabis to use only for 4 indications, and these are multiple sclerosis, AIDS, oncology, and epilepsy. In the new legislation, in 2020 legislation, these medical indications will be increased to more than 2 dozens of medical indications, and they will be prescribed. The medical products will derived from cannabis will be prescribed from general practitioners, from family doctors with reference to specialists. From marketing perspective, there is no change between the law from 2018 and the one which we are waiting for, the 2020 law. From marketing perspective, no direct or indirect advertisement on production, sales, usage, or distribution of any kind of medical cannabis is allowed, and there is a forbidden advertisement on anything which is with more than 0.2% THC. Just giving you, in the next slide, I'm giving you some of the examples of the changes which will be hopefully will be introduced in North Macedonia by end of 2020. There will be different licenses for cultivation, extraction, packaging, and production of final products. Then there will be, as I mentioned, forming specialized agency for cannabis, which will treat the cannabis legislation and regulation as a one-stop shop. There will be expanding of the list of medical indication. Clinical trials are allowed with medical indications to be to be conducted. Dried flower as a final product can be exported from Macedonia, which everybody is expecting very, very much. From business opportunities point of view, Macedonia is very good position because we don't have strain restrictions. Any strain we can grow into Macedonia. We can produce clones and seeds. There is a low tax on profit, only 10%. We are NATO member and EU candidate. As I mentioned, we have quite a lot of agricultural experience, so this gives us a bit of advantage of cultivation of medical cannabis. We, by law, we don't have any limited number of licenses, no restriction of licenses, cheap electricity, and no restriction on plants as well. From, let's say, the current status in Macedonia is that since 2018 until now, we have more than 210 million euros investment related to medical cannabis. More than 850 employees are employed into the new industry. As you can see from the slide, we have 61 licenses for cultivation, and the number is growing on daily basis. We have 10 extraction licenses, 3 formed NGOs, which are directly related with patients and with the usage of medical cannabis. We have only 1 CBD store so far, and we have 1 association of medical cannabis producers and manufacturers. What we have for future steps, we need to have more proactive rather than reactive approach. And from my point of view, education, awareness, and synergy in between administration, the industry, the patients, and the doctors, and up-to-date regulations covering contemporary patient needs. We need fastly to update the regulations, not only for cannabis, but for medical drugs as well. This is me, Imperial Green. I'm one of the co-founders of Imperial Green. It's a small consultancy company and partner in the facility. We are growing in a high-tech hybrid greenhouse. We have pilot projects from seeds and clones. We have all sorts of solutions for extractions for ethanol and CO2 and producing dried flower final products, biomass and crude oil. If someone is more interested in Macedonian legislative or business opportunities in Macedonia, don't hesitate to contact me. This is end of my presentation. During the virus pandemic, I'm following medical protocols. I'm an MD myself. I grow the beard. I'm promoting and educating medical cannabis, and I'm staying positive. And I'm strongly hoping when this pandemic is ended, to come to Thailand and to see in person how things are developing there. Thank you very much for having me. I'm leaving a minute or two if someone has questions. Hello?
Hello, yes. So is that the conclusion of your presentation, Dr.?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So we've still got 2 minutes left, and we would like to hear more about what you would expect to see in the near future for medical cannabis regulation and legalization in Macedonia, and any direct impact that you're personally involved in. Well, and you also have a great beard. Yes.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, from 2018 until 2020, having in mind that we had a 1 year of corona pandemic, we have direct investments of over 200 million euros. Having said that in mind, the current government is very, very, let's say, inclusive, as I mentioned, but it's in favor of having medical cannabis side to side with the current with the current pharmaceutical drugs treating medical patients in North Macedonia. The new law, which we are all waiting and expecting, and it is in the first reading in the national parliament, will expand and extend the medical indication, which will bring medical cannabis to even more patients in Macedonia, which is an outstanding result and a very positive moment from medical perspective. As I mentioned, I'm an MD myself, and I strongly believe that this will improve the quality of life of Macedonian patients as well. The new law will change the paradigm of exporting dried flower. So everyone of the 61 plus, they are, let's say, competing to be as advanced as possible, having in mind all those GMPs, GACPs, all those abbreviations, in order to be competitive on global scale. So this will give us edge to have the Macedonian medical cannabis to be recognized as a drug, as a treatment, and to be sold out throughout the world. The second thing is that we will expand the awareness, we will expand the knowledge and the education throughout not only the country but to neighboring countries as well. We are a small country on the Balkan Peninsula, and we are, let's say, one of the pioneers in this region of having all these licenses and all these regulations for medical cannabis production, extraction, and whatnot. So I strongly believe that once the new law comes into force, some of the neighboring countries will implement those changes into their countries, and
Yes.
this medical cannabis will become a very important factor on the Balkan Peninsula.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. It sounds like you guys are on track to make yourselves a regional leader in the cannabis industry. That's amazing. It looks like you guys have a great outline, and that other countries are definitely going to follow suit. And like I said, you're going to end up making yourselves the regional leader. So we'd love to hear more about that in our panel discussion later this evening, and we look forward to hearing from you some more. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Stay safe and keep in touch. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.